you can hear me, but I don't know if you can hear through the. Anyways, good evening, everyone. I'm really glad to be here. I apologize for the technical stuff. We had some mix-up with it, but we are ready to go. And I'm really glad to be here with you. Thank you for being here at this presentation. And before I'd like to start with just a short prayer, then explain what I plan to do, then we're just going to delve into the topic. After the topic, you have the opportunity to ask questions. I have presented anything related to this, not related to this. I don't know if you answer everything, but you can ask the question. If I can give you the answer, that's a different issue. Being here with us, thank you that you got us in search of the truth. We thank you that you want us to find the truth, and we thank you that no matter what we do, we speak the truth. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I think there's a video, a YouTube video playing in the back. So, as I said, thank you again for here for these presentations. What do I want to do with this? Basically, there's just 5 presentations on the topic of creation. I am doing this because this topic of creation is one which the scientific has a lot to say in what we believe. That is the thing. See, as Christians, we believe that we have been created by God for a purpose, and our theology is important for us. We believe we were created perfect in the beginning, and that we fell from this state of perfection in the world, and that's why Jesus had to come to keep us from sin. Now, with all that, indeed we evolve, then this whole issue changes. Let's pause for a second. Exit this PowerPoint, press escape, find the video there. Just close that video. That's it. Then just put my PowerPoint. Thank you. Oh, it is important to know the truth. Are we here to because people say this establishment and everybody else says that we evolved. We will now, if we evolved, it's a whole different issue. It's a whole different story. Because if we evolved, we were not created. If there's no perfect, or you have to interpret it. Because people who are Christians, they believe, but they have to reinterpret. So if you don't have perfection, you don't have fall, you don't have sin, then why have redemption? Then you have to reinterpret that too. And if God really creates through death, that creates a illusion, means in order for new life to come, the old, worst life to die. That's the whole evolution. It's important what we believe. That's why we're doing this series. If indeed we are wrong, then this we're doing for nothing. Are we right? Or are we wrong? If we're wrong, it's a whole different issue. If we're right, again, it's a place to start. For the remains. Do we know? Can we know what the truth is? Please, we'll have presentations every Sabbath, starting hopefully at 5:30 from now on. Tonight we're going to talk about not scientific, but what if it's true? And I'm going to explain what this means. Every time we try to bring a creator into the picture, what if we were created? The standard answer of the you can't bring God into discussion because that's scientific, and that's true. It's not scientific, but my question is true. That is, it might not be according to the rules you put into the game, but what if it's true? What if it's beyond your rules? So we're going to discuss that tonight. Then next, we're going to talk about how life began. Okay, that's the thing. If we need to know why we are here, life began on this earth. How did we get on this earth? What are the processes that start? What does the scientific establishment have to say about it? Did they prove anything about it? Did they prove that life appears out of nothing? Okay, let's see what they say. Then, after we talk about that, third night we're going to talk about the complexity of life. Because technically, when we talk to people about life, they say life is not evolution. Okay? They change the rule of the game in the middle. They say that's not evolution. That's with big term, just abiogenesis, whatever. We have to learn. It's just when we talk about evolution, they start with the assumption of life present. So don't deal with it. They say life is there anyways. Then they start to talk about evolution, about how life developed. So the third presentation will talk about that, how life developed. Okay? Then the fourth presentation will talk about past. The geological column, and those two things are two of the best evolution has. Okay, because we say we were created recently, scientific establishment says we have millions, hundreds of millions of years worth of life. So which is true? Did life really exist on this earth for hundreds of years? Or are we right that life is fairly recent? Understand? All these questions are important. I mean, of course, we can stick our hand in the sand and say, I don't care about these issues. The Bible says, and that's true. Okay, but now applied with that. Especially young people who go to school. Confronted with this every day of their life. They need the answers. They're not going to provide the answers. They're going to leave anyone provide. So that's why we need to ask these hard questions. The church should be a place where people ask uncomfortable questions. We don't like uncomfortable questions. We don't have the answers. But here, we should create an environment where everybody feels safe to ask whatever question pops in their mind. Don't allow them to ask it here. Like that. And they're not going to get all the answers. They're just going to get the answer. So that's why I want to ask these hard questions here. What about that? Really true? Did life really exist on this earth for hundreds of millions of years? Are we wrong? I don't know. Let's find out. The last station, now what? Now that I've discovered the solution, what are we to believe? What are we to teach in our schools? How are we to respond to challenges in our students? What about if we're teachers? If I'm a teacher of biology, can I teach about creation in school? Will I get fired for that? Will you sue me and my school in the school district? The last one will deal with the, not necessarily legal implications, to do. How are we to proceed from what we've discussed? So this is the general what we're trying to do in all these 5 series. Now, if you're interested in this topic, please invite them to come and have this discussion. After the discussion, we'll just try to relax and have some fellowship with each other and play games, play music, sing, and just fun together. We do the work first, and then fun afterward. So, here we are. There's no doubt that we are here. Okay? We see each other. So we must have appeared. The big question is, as the Bible says, and as we believe, we evolve, as the scientific establishment says. The truth. Can we establish the truth? Well, one of the most known evolutionists has said evolution, and the people don't believe in it. So that's the problem. Richard Dawkins, in his book, The Watchmaker, one of his most famous, that your watch just happened to make itself. William Paley draws the conclusion that the watch is too complicated. Now, Richard Dawkins comes along and he writes the book, The Blind Watch. So that argument says the watchmaker is actually blind. Nature, and nature creates everything. And that's the thing to read. I don't believe in it and what it says, but as and at the end of this book, he says this: if it is absolutely safe to say that you meet some even evolution, in my life, for example, and I assume most of you, that person is stupid, or insane, or wicked. You see, those are the four options. Wicked, but consider it. One here is insane. The main arguments are this: are you stupid, which means you just don't get it? I explained to you, you're just above your intellectual capacity. Or ignorant. Do you know the difference between ignorant and stupid? No, so doesn't get it no matter how much you explain to that person. Ignorant is the person that doesn't know. Okay? I assume that most of us are ignorant because we haven't studied it in such a manner. And I'm not a professional of the topic. It just happens to be that I've been passionate about this for 13 years old. So I've been studying about this topic for the last 24 years. This has been, well, probably the main stuff for the past 4 years. Ever since I got the book, Scientific Creationism, I got this topic. For me, it is studying about this. But I'm not a professional. I don't know evolution, but that's fine. Okay? You have scientists a lot about their field. You have PhD doctors in a particular field, and they're very knowledgeable in that. However, they're just laymen. You might have a molecular biologist, a lot of biology, but less than me and you about astrophysics. So basically, we're ignorance in certain topics, okay? But can we, with our ignorance, can we see more and find what the truth is? The truth is that nobody is called stupid. And when our kids are called that in school to believe in evolution, there's only two ways out of that. Either they don't believe in evolution to fit in and not be called stupid, or believe in evolution so that they're not called stupid, or they'll try to show that they know what they're talking about. If they don't have the two to defend their faith, they're going to choose the first option. They're just going to reject education and religion. And statistics, at least 80% of our youth that go to college believe in evolution and believe in evolution. College, good thing, they support that. But when we don't teach proper reasoning tools to know how to deal with philosophy, they lose their faith because we're not teaching them. That's what I'm trying to do. I want to reason with these things. Into existence by Big Bang It stretched. After billions of years, a planet formed around the sun. Well, actually, after some billions of years, some suns formed. Then those suns died, and the second generation have heavier elements than one. That's a complicated theory. The idea is it happened by itself. No one's directing it. There's no creator. That's what I believe. They prove, though. Some have God more involved. Some have God more withdrawn. Most of them say that God just created the laws, just started the process, and that's it. Because he knew how those things would work. He knew that somewhere along the way there would be a being that has it. There will be a sentient being. There's no problems with that in a way, but we're not going to talk about it now. The other thing that we're going to hear about is the intelligent design. Have you ever heard about the intelligent design? You've heard about it, yes? Different than creationism. Wait. The intelligent design movement, people who are intelligent design proponents are also creationists. But what they say is we can prove with science that God is the creator. That. What we try to prove with science is what we is explained by having been created by somebody, we don't know who that is, then having been created by itself. That's what they say. The intelligent design movement, we look at things, and I think it's more likely that we were created by whom? We don't know, because we cannot get it from most of them. Some of them don't. It's fine. All of them believe of some sort. Even Hoyle, the one who started the Big Bang Theory, he did not even in these people believe. He believed in panspermia, which is that life takes place in the universe and was brought here either by accident or an intelligent alien. That's still intelligent design, but it's not the God of the Bible. Then we have old and young earth creationists who believe that the Creator is the God of the Bible, believe differently about the earth. And there's, of course, several different things. So, to find out how are we going to do it? First of all, not fear the truth. What if the truth is like? Hypothetically, what if we find that we were not created? Are we going to believe that? That's evolved. I repeat, hypothetically. Because when I went to my PhD study, one of my friends, who I think he didn't really believe, anyways, that's not besides the point. He asked me, he says, find out that you are not, that creation is not true. What are you going to do? And that's not an easy answer. Because we attach to what we believe. But I believe that we must answer. We will follow the truth wherever it leads us. Because the truth is God's truth. Because Jesus Christ said, you shall know the truth shall set you free. Hypothetically, if the is ever to follow the truth, I gotta say this up front, because I know my audience, I do not believe in evolution, and I'll show you why. But what I'm saying is, you should never be afraid of the truth. What the truth is, follow it, because that's part of the problem. That is part of why we in a bit. That they don't like the truth, so they try to disqualify it beginning, before even talking about creation. Saying how we appeared, because you can't. It's scientific. You cannot say that. That's why we are here. That's why we have this problem. Because some people do not follow the truth wherever it leads. Be able to follow the truth wherever the truth leads. Even if it's something we don't like. If that is God's truth, let's see what the reality is. The reality is this. You've seen those 5 options that we have. There's even more than that, but actually, it's just 2 options. Just 2 main options. And there are these. Matter, energy, everything, if there is anything else. Created itself from nothing to the materiality today, or there is a that is himself, like an eternal God, that created everything created by itself, or there's somebody who existed eternally, created everything. Those are 2 options. How are we going to discern between them? These 2 options, they take some forms, For example, people look at how the universe is, and they find the universe is very intuitive. The constants, like the gravitation constant, and several other constants that in the universe, the laws of physics, laws of attraction, proportion between the laws, they find out if the charge of the electron was higher or lower, the universe as we know would not exist. If the law of a strong nuclear was just a little higher, we would only have helium. It would helium. We just have hydrogen, stuff like that. Very, very fine-tuned. There are people who found out that there's like 30 constants in the universe that they're fine-tuned. Just like when you try to catch a you try to fine-tune it, they do it like a quarter of a millimeter. Lost it. That's the universe. And they see everything seems to have been created with the universe seems to have been created for us. If you move the dial just a little bit, one constants, the universe will and they say it's called the anthropic principle. Anthropos coming from anthropos, which is with us in mind. However, our is multiverse theory. When we try to do that, people who don't believe in a creator, they say this. Well, that might be the case. However, we have an alternative. You know how the Big Bang is? Everything just started to exist. The universe expands. They say there's a starting point, and the universe goes back again, and then again, and back again. Bang, crunch, Big Bang, Big Crunch. If cycles say those cycles is say we don't get it right from the beginning, but who knows? The billionth universe in a row would get all these options, would get all the constants just right, so that we appear. I say, fine, you can believe that, but can you prove it? You can't, because by definition, it's part of science. If you have multi universes, either parallel, existing with our own, or consecutive, the problem is you only have access to one universe, the one you're in. You do not have access to all the other universes, because they either disappeared before this appeared, or before this one appeared, or and you cannot access them. yet. Maybe you look at a method in the future. But the point is, you cannot study this scientific. That's not scientific. This, the last option, is not scientific as the first one. That is, they're not. Believe in God, not scientific. I'll give you that. You cannot put that test to you. When they say, well, we proved not the universe because we have the university, that's wrong. You did not. You just believe it's true. You didn't prove it. It's just an option you created to get rid of it. That's fine. You can do it, but that's not philosophy. It's just you choose to believe because you find God unacceptable. So that's why you do what you do. That's philosophy. And that's basically what discarded from the start. Now let's put all the cards. Let's see how we can find out. So, we claim that evolution is a fact. Often use the word fact to describe an observation. Science can also use fact to mean something that has been tested, observed so many times that there's no longer a reason to keep thinking of looking for examples. The occurrence of evolution in this sense is a fact. Scientists no longer question whether this modification occurred because the evidence supports the idea is so strong. This is what we're facing. Scientific establishment presenting evolution as a fact. It's established. There's no way of it to doubt. We already know this. Whatever you say about creation, that's their own thing. Science proved this. What we face. And this is what our in colleges. When they are told that evolution is a fact, they better accept it, because if they accept it, they live in the Middle Ages. How do you accept marvels of a cell phone or computer and do not accept this, another modern science, which is evolution? Well, I'll explain why things are not completely, but essentially different. So let's go further. Is it a fact or is it? They say it is. I picture that evolution is not this way. Evolution a beautiful theory. I give you that. Evolution is very beautiful and explain everything. Of the 20th century with Theodore as a phrase, something that became of something of a phrase. Nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution. That's what it says. And everybody believes it. Okay? So it has a great way to explain. It can predict a lot of, you can conduct a lot of experiments based on the theory of evolution. Just has one major, we'll say, fatal flaw. It's not true. It's beautiful, not true. I'm going to show you why it's not true. So, what does evolution mean? Some people say that evolution is change. No, I don't mean that. This is another thing that people need to pay attention to, because there's always shifting definitions. It's not change over time. People change. Hair grows gray. That's not evolution. Evolution, indeed, is change over time, but not all. Well, I just had a descendant this week, and it was definitely modified from me. I'm identical to me. She's different than us. Is that evolution? No. It's just a normal process of procreation where the progenitors are different than their parents. That's not what it means. Evolution means is that all organisms present today are descended from one single or a few. Okay? Just the parent of everything. A single form of life, then that form of life developed over time in what we have. Is that true? Well, Dawkins says one old real scientist. See how that is put into the there, all that crap? All scientists, which means if you don't believe in evolution, you're a real scientist, so you can science. So you're excluded from the start. Real scientists agree upon is the fact of evolution. It is the cause of starfish and bacteria. Evolution is as much of a fact as the heat of the sun. Let's stop using the philosophically naive by calling it so. It's a fact, which Dawkins would say. Fact. Fact. Let's see what thing on which the theory of evolution is based. Fact. Okay, let's do it. Animal tests show that we have a common animal. The theory goes like this. You know, they do tests for antibiotics in the lab. They labs tests work because we have a similar genome to theirs. So we have a genome, similar DNA. That means we evolved from a common ancestor. And there's another one that claims the same thing. Homology. See, all those four types of front leg. You have the human arm, the human leg, the flipper of a whale, and the wing of a bat. They all have the same pattern. They have one bone here, humerus, metacarpals, and phalange. They all have a pattern. See, that proves we evolved. Question. Does one follow the other? What is the fact here? What is the fact? The fact is that these things are similar. That is true. That is the fact. Fact. Our genome is similar to those of animals. Our limbs are formed. You can touch it, you can measure it, papers on it, you can put it in tables. Now, how do you interpret? Is that a fact or is it an interpretation of fact? And what we have here as evolution being the answer is the fact. Because another possible interpretation could be created but somebody. Why not? When we create things, we don't create everything from scratch. A car, all car manufacturers make everything on the same pattern. It doesn't stem from another. You just need to have something that has the same pattern and create an object using the same pattern. Right? And it's very interesting. This guy, he used but he kind of proved the point. He said if you compare 1950 to 1954 side by side, then 1954 and 1954 and so on, that the with modification is well obvious. So this is what ontology used. It is not with modification. The used is creation. Because the 1953 Corvette doesn't get a 1954 Corvette. There's one designer who creates both by using the same pattern. That's basically the case. The only problem is is not scientific. So they exclude it from the start because it has, they say, implications. So what? It has implications. It's true. Say an intelligent design is not scientific. Okay, so what's not scientific? Maybe it's true. That means you just need to enlarge your definition of scientific. Because, and that is because, so we need a methodology that will allow us to find perspective of consequences. We cannot exclude from the start because we might have a skewed answer. When we talk about origins, there are issues that we cannot address through science because things are inaccessible. You must use philosophy to them. And that is because it's a different kind of science. Example. It's a different kind of science. When people say, how can you accept the marvels of modern technology like cell phones and computers and do not accept you're not consistent with each other, with yourself? I will say no. It is a science, but it's a different kind. It is a historical science. Evolution tries to find out what happened in the past. Experimental science or find out what happens in the present, how nature functions, create all the technology that we have. Because we find out that if you shoot an electron on a screen, on a color, you see a color, and that's how they, the old TV sets, with those huge electrons. Because they found out, and they made that a TV set. Well, they're not going to make gravity, for example. Gravity has immediate confirmation. You can choose not to believe in gravity, but you find out you're wrong. Then you need to test it, and it all depends on how you want to test it. If I test it from here, I'm not going to hurt too much. If I'm going to test it from a skyscraper, it's a disposable test. Along comes another scientist, and he says, "No, it is not true because the handle is not as round and it is not period. It actually corresponds to a different period." Who's to say who's right? Nobody cares. And the people are interested in that, but planes still. It's not the same. It's a different kind of science. It doesn't have immediate confirmation. So that's the second point to make. We already did that. Darwin's finches. Maybe I'm not going to go too much into it because we're trying to draw. Basically, what they did, they made beaks of finches and they found out that after a drought, their side, there it is, evolution. That's not evolution. That's just this change that happened. You extrapolate that into all your life. Along came the rain, the beaks went back. They never tell you that. They never tell you that the rain came and the beaks went back to what they were. Bacteria, their resistance to antibiotics. Bacteria, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't something else. Or they tried and tried to do a lot of experiments on. They created 4 wings. And they say that's evolution because those wings are and wings by a mutation were created instead of a stabilizer, and that fruit fly cannot fly. Like taking the rudder off a helicopter, not here anymore. If you just have the big gates, the helicopter will go in circles. You won't go anywhere. That's what happens to the fruit flies. Or they have to get fruit flies with legs on their heads instead of antennae. What good is that? That's still a fruit fly. It's a mutant fruit fly that would not survive in the wild. So basically, they've had almost a bacteria create something else. It's just nothing else. They change a little bit, then limits. Now, what they never show you those changes, and they say the same way all life changed throughout. Well, that's an explanation. You're never able to prove that. Prove something that you hear and see that those changes are limited. Always stays the same organism and goes into something else. That's the reality. Now, if you want to extrapolate that and believe that all life was created the same way, that's fine. Okay, it's a viable option. You can't prove that. Actually, evidence is against you because you see the organism don't. Okay, so third, extrapolate in a way in which it's not warranted by the facts. Okay, and the last thing is, we're going to deal with that later, is the geologic column. The problem is, say that the geologic column is the best evidence for evolution because what you find there is several layers. And as a rule, you find less advanced animals on the bottom and more advanced on the top. Okay, as a rule, you find that. The column doesn't exist in its entirety anywhere. It's just in the book. Okay, first thing, you have parts of it. The second thing, even Charles Darwin said, the big against his theory at that point was as an evolutionist, you would expect transition. You would expect not to know when one species and the other one starts, because you have continuous transfer. So you should see that, or at least you should have transitional fossils. The truth is, you find very little fossils that can be interpreted as transitional. Okay, there are some that are interpreted as transitional, but they're less than 0.001%. The rule of the geologic column is status. Organisms, when they appear fully formed. We have evolution, which they called punctuated equilibria. Basically, what they said is organisms stay the same and so rapidly that it can geological constant. But that's just like saying before a Romanian, a French guy, they're all history, okay? And the French guy comes and says, my ancestors used the what do you know? We did some digging and copper wire. So they did the graph. Nothing the American says. My ancestors used optics. Well, how did you find that out? We did some digging and some charts of glass, which means they use fiber optics. Okay. And he says, my ancestors were the best. How come? Well, we use wireless communication. Because and we found, which means they used electrification. Absence of is not for anything. So they say we don't find that the geologic they have happened very fast, so recorded. I can say that, but can you prove it? Yeah, it's a theory. Whereas stays the same. You do it because you have alternative. Because as soon as you give up this, you're going to start. Well, evolution is not true. Alternative. But creation. Now, who that is? Who that is, it's a different story. They are not even willing to acknowledge the ability of a creator is a good one. So discard it from the start. Discard it from the start. Why are we talking about this? You need to be put it back and show me that your theory is true. Okay, that's fine. I will believe it if you show me, but include it in the discussion. Don't just discard it from the start and because you have only one option. See, no idea how it works. Because we're here. So, and because we're here, we must be involved. Because otherwise, and we can't say God. Can you not say God? Why? I do not have philosophical position. You suppose that God doesn't exist. That's your choosing. That's your choosing. I do not. There might be a God. I'm not going to say there might be. I'll assume that there might be a God, or there might not be a creator. No. Now let's talk. Can you prove it now that evolution is true? As a fact, only exclude the alternative, that is the creator-designer. This option can only be excluded scientifically. Well, they immediately say, well, if there's a God, what do you do with evil? That's a good question, but that's a philosophical question. I thought how to use philosophy. So how is it? We're not allowed to prove God, but we're allowed to use philosophy when it disproves. We can choose philosophy. That's the measure. Either we are allowed margins or we're not. So choose. Solution, and I do not accept that philosophically. As a conclusion, when we deal with the theory of evolution, when we start to listen to talk about it, we must first ask ourselves, what I'm hearing, fact, or is it an interpretation of a fact? That's at the beginning. The similarity between organisms, that's the fact. Now, that became because of common ancestry or creation, that's interpretation. So ask ourselves, is it a fact or is it an interpretation of the fact? Second thing, I should ask, well, is it true? Should it you excluded one possibility from the philosophical implications of my option? Well, that's science. My truth, tough choice, but truth is truth. Even if we must follow truth wherever it leads us. Uncomfortable philosophical places. And we do. Third thing is we need to know the differences between historical sciences and experimental sciences. Sciences have immediate confirmation of reality. Historical sciences, so in historical sciences, there's more room for speculation and philosophy, and that's what evolution is. When we talk about evolution, in consideration the fact is a historical science, not an experimental science. It is science. It is a good science. It fosters, scientific experiment. It's just not true. But it is a science. And the last is presented as truth, like for of the finches. I haven't because a lot like the color of the moths. You've heard about the moth experiment. The tree trunks got darker, so the moths became more prevalent for a while because the birds started to eat the light colored moths, like that. That's fine. So the experiment was fake. The moth placed on tree trunks and glue dead moths on trees to photograph. That's the yeah, it's an established fact actually. That's not the point. The point is prove it because it's just an extrapolation. Colored light moths, colored, and I'm wrong, and I become smarter. But I sharpen my power of reasoning. If I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I gotta follow the truth. So whenever we talk with people about, let's just remember these things. Fact is interpretation of the fact. Scientific, or is it true? Also, we must ask the question: is it true? We never discard an option from the start. Then, historical sciences and experimental sciences. They're different. They have different validation, different methodology. We should never confuse a fact with an extrapolation of the fact in the past. And this is how I conclude the first session. Next time we will be talking at the beginning of life. Abiogenesis, array experiments, if did scientists and all the things that come from that. It has a huge potential. I'm looking forward to discussing that with you again next. Hopefully, you're going to be here. But and now, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I'm feeling that's kind of a tautology. Any questions? Some mics there, if there are questions. Not, we will. Short. Still talk. Promise you, next time I'm going to talk 45 minutes. Not more than that. So, any questions? Either very clear and everybody understood what I said. It was very obtuse and nobody else said what I said. Well, if there are no other questions, I would like to thank you. And for the next time, please bring a friend more about this. So for the end, again, I would like to end and then we'll try to have social together. We can do that in the kitchen. We have games and other things that we can do together.
I only have one comment.
Please.
When you compare one to another, what's the outcome to another one? What do I gain by believing in creation, and what do I gain by believing in evolution? What's the end of one, and what's the end of the other one?
Okay, it's a very good question. Well, I think the answer is not that easy. When you believe in evolution, it depends on if you believe things evolved on their own or if God made them evolve. Because if you believe one, most people believe we just evolved. That means there is no purpose in life other than the one you create for yourself. Because you just appeared, there's no life after death, there's no resurrection, there's no new earth. That is what it is, and you must just enjoy what you have right now.
Enjoy what?
Life.
Well,
Okay.
the quality of life, if you talk to people around, very few will say they have a good quality of life.
That is true.
If they don't believe.
And then you try to find out what that purpose is and try to fulfill that purpose because that will bring you happiness, you know? And the purpose of God is to just for us to live with him on eternity and be glad of all the things that he created. It's just a short parenthesis now that we have the problem of sin. And God wants to solve this problem of sin so that we grow in everlasting life, you know, and we try to be like God. We're never going to be like God, but we are created in the image of God. And we can do things as he does.
Even though I can say by my own life experience, it is not easy to explain God.
No, it's not.
It is very hard to explain God's trials on this earth to a lot of people.
Yes.
There's no way you can
That's true.
Why their child was killed, why their child died, why is happening certain bad things in this world. So it's not easy to explain a
No,
loving God
no,
when you look around.
no. You are absolutely right. The problem of evil is the hardest question for Christians, but it's a philosophical question. It's not a scientific question, but it is one of the most difficult questions, probably the most difficult questions that we face. Why, if we believe in an all-loving God, why do we have so much suffering? And we have the answers. Okay, we know the theoretical answers, but it seems as those answers never touch somebody who goes through that pain.
What I do say is the reason you don't understand is because you don't
Believe.
know God.
Yeah, that's true.
If you know God, because if you talk to anybody that's no, not I shouldn't say anybody. Most of the people that are believers in God, even if they go to trials, they don't blame God. People around them blame God for what's happening to them. I heard this week a series of yeah, Joe. You're having an understanding.
No, no, the thing is, what Michelle is saying is true. But as I said, when we talk about science and evolution, that's a philosophical question. And they usually say, well, you cannot bring philosophy into science, science and science. But they bring it when it suits their case. You know, that's the thing. When it suits their case, they bring it. When it's the problem of evil, that's fine. If it disproves God, it's fine to bring up philosophy. If it proves, that's fine. If it disproves God, it's fine to bring up philosophy. If it proves God, no, you cannot bring up philosophy. Yes, please.
It's about keystone species.
Okay.
If you believe in evolution, keystone species like the classic example of the wolves and the moose in nature.
The wolf and the
The wolves and the moose.
moose. Okay.
If you believe in evolution, then
Yeah.
you don't believe that there was an intelligent design and like everything was happening at random.
Mm-hmm.
Science has proved that if certain animals, like if you remove the wolves from this forest, the moose population
Yeah.
went crazy.
Control.
And the trees
Yeah.
and nature was unbalanced. You put too many wolves in, and again, unbalanced. So that's a scientific argument that there's some sort of intelligent design to balance in nature. But how can you believe in evolution if there was no, how did those two
Well,
correlate?
let me start by saying that I completely agree with you. Okay, I know that proves there are several problems with that. If we believe in a God who created a world in which death did not exist, this kind of ecosystem would have not existed before sin. So there must have been a different ecosystem which will be reproduced again after the inauguration of the new kingdom, when there will be no more death. So how that works, I have no idea. However, that's one point. The second point is they'll just say, well, through trial and repeat, nature figured it out. That's the classic answer.
But nature figured it out. But if nature figured it out, then that means that there was a design to nature.
They will say no. They'll say, well, it happened that there were many more wolves here. That didn't work out. They killed each other. And then in the end, a balance was reached by itself. That's what they say. Of course, the key element here is that they cannot prove it. Neither can we, but they cannot prove it either. So it's just a matter of interpretation.
But isn't that a philosophical argument that
It is. It is. It is. That's what I'm trying to say. When you talk about history, you cannot rule out philosophy. But they rule it out when it doesn't fit their case. They don't like it, so they rule it out. They just bring it when they like it.
I also have another scientific question. They proved that our DNA,
Yes.
like the sequencing,
Yeah.
is like 90 something,
98%
98% similar to
chimps.
chimpanzees,
Yeah.
right? But, you know, as you said, homology happens in nature. But why would God use such similarities to, between us?
That's a very good question. There's two things to say about that. First of all, it's not 98%. Because when they did that, they only took into consideration the protein coding parts of the DNA. As you know, there's a much larger part of the DNA that doesn't code for proteins. And they called that junk DNA because it doesn't code for protein. They say it doesn't have any function. It's just an evolutionary remnant. However, recently they've been finding out more and more function for that junk DNA. They find out it regulates protein sequencing. So it does have a function. So first of all, that is not true. It is not 98%. You got to take everything into consideration. Second, even if that were true, when you have billions of base pairs, a 1%, when you have like 30,000 something genes or whatever, 2%, that means what? 600 genes. That is a lot. That's a lot of difference right there, you know? And maybe God just whoever the creator was, I believe it's God, but I'm not sure if I'm right or not, but is it like we have like 200 face muscles? Well, out of like a 600, 700, 800 that we have, there's a lot of face muscles that we have. They don't, because they don't need it. So the question is what? Did humans just happen to evolve those muscles that they didn't need? Why such a big difference? It didn't happen. It's just because we have a purpose. We need to express our feelings with them. Animals don't have I believe they do have some kinds of feelings, but it's different than ours. But they don't need those too much muscles in the face. Second thing is babies. Animal babies can become autonomous very fast. Look at a calf. You know, it gets a mare gives birth to a calf. In about half an hour, that calf can stand on its own and spring, and do that and eat. Look at a human baby. It takes a year or so for that baby to be able to walk. Now, that should be a regress because it involves much more time spending taking care of the child. You cannot be away from home, so it takes much more time. Why would evolution favor that? Evolution would not favor that. That's a big regress. Apes, I mean, the young of the apes become fat. They still depend on their mother. They can walk, they can call, they can but become autonomous very fast. Our children, they don't. So that is another problem with us common ancestor with modern apes. You got a question? Yeah. So, coon. Yeah. Yeah, it's a goo. They can't. They say we don't have the answers. I agree. You don't have all the answers. So stop saying you did. That's my point. Say, we don't have all the answers. This is the best answer. Offer that. Wouldn't the best answer be we don't know? I think that should be your answer. We have no clue. Why say something you know? That's one thing. The second is there is no reason for which you would favor this stage. Why? Why should a larvae become chrysalis or pupae and move inside and then rebuild itself? Why? Why would it favor that? There's no purpose to that. It's vulnerable in that stage. And the third thing, evolution is based on the survival of the fittest. That is completely opposite to the spirit of the Bible. And the Bible is always on the side of the underdog. He always supports the one that is weak, the one that is, the one that is strong, the feeble. God is you cannot have theistic evolution because theistic evolution would mean God employs a method that disfavors the weak. And that's God. In all the Bible, you see God favoring the underdog. Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And very interesting. They have a shorter lifespan. The last generation who travels has a longer lifespan. Media on butterflies. I have it. Anything else? Yes, Rebecca. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Um, because what they is it's not that the whole species evolved. So basically, population. Okay, let's because we don't say hey, human evolved from chimps. Chimps have a common ancestor. That's what they say. So let's say that common ancestor, they breed, new animals are born. All of a sudden, one is born with a characteristic that um, suitable to live, to more offspring. That animal needs to find another pair with the same characteristics. They need to pair, they need to make offspring, and they will leave the population. Yeah, that's the basic, that is the engine of evolution. Yeah. Well, they don't have any other answer. They don't have any other answer, Rebecca. That's the point. So that's the point. That's the whole point. They don't have another option. The only option is acceptable. It's taboo. That's a very good question. No one knows. That's the answer. Nobody knows. They will just find out what happened. They would just least advanced, according to their interpretation, species that has female and male. And say, oh, the moment in the history of life when it appeared. Okay, so what? How did that appear? Oh, at the moment, okay, we've established that. You've identified how it happened. Evolution. No. They have no clue how that happened. What happened? They would say, okay, we had a cell of male and female cells, and that cell separated itself into a male and a female. That, no, you can't. That's what you think happened. But yeah. Yeah, because it doesn't affect their research, For example, there's a new method of comparing organisms according to their genes. So what they're going to do, they're going to take several organisms, measure their positions, put the study, this organism, 50%. Okay, so? Yeah, and they say that is one of the proof of evolution. Right. But it's not, because there's still a rabbit. Right, but how does that fit into the model of evolution? Because they say adaptation proves evolution, but no money is in the winter. Yeah, I mean, Richard Dawkins' books are very interesting to read. I don't believe in them, but they're very interesting. Oh, well, you can't really separate. We talk about if you want to stay or not. So he's Richard Dawkins, the guy I told you about, he wrote a lot of books. His last book is called, I'm reading that now. It's very interesting. I don't believe it, but it's rubbish, but it's interesting. It's called The Greatest Show on Earth. Okay? And he says that evolution is the greatest show on earth and blah, blah. But he makes an interesting statement in that book. He says, in all my other books, I never tried to prove evolution. I assumed evolution as being true, and then I explained everything based on that. In this book, I'm trying to prove evolution. Now, I have a feeling that he's not going to do that. I have a feeling that he's still going to assume evolution. I haven't finished the book yet. But that's the key point. They always assume evolution, then they describe nature, and then they use those things to prove evolution is true, which is circular reasoning. Circular reasoning. Thank you very much for your interest. See you next Sabbath. If you still want to come. That is. In the afternoon. Pastor Dawes will be with us in the morning. Yes, yes.
I just want to say thanks for that informative
Thank you, Pastor.
presentation.
I hope you liked it. I know it was a little bit long. Maybe it's too late. Maybe I got to work on that a little bit. I don't know exactly.
It was very interesting to me because I've never studied anything concerning evolution.
I've been doing that for 24 years. My brother.
Exactly. So
It's been my passion in
you're
life.
very proficient in that area.